There is an entire atmospheric terraforming geoengineering manipulation. They don't call it chemtrails. And of course, the CIA director admitted they have this huge program. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation owns the major patents on it from Westinghouse and others. They use these big antennas to manipulate the weather. They can, like China is like causing huge rains
like
and stuff.
Haarp? Like Haarp,
yes,
that
Haarp
kind
type
of shit?
technology. It's all declassified.
Do you think Haarp manipulates the weather?
They admit it does. I used to have the head of Haarp, General Bitten K. Parton, on all the time. But exactly, there's giant weather modification systems, and there's weather wars between different governments, and it's all declassified.
Let's explain to people that are listening what Haarp is. What does it stand for? High altitude something?
Yeah, they've got a system that supposedly, well, you don't know what Haarp really was under its classification?
What does it stand for? High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program.
Yes.
So the idea behind this was they wanted to do research on the aurora, and didn't they want to see if they could communicate using it and send radio waves
they wanted
that bounce off the
over-the-horizon
ionosphere?
radar.
Right. Yeah, that, and they also wanted to be able to send radio signals to places where they wouldn't reach,
Haarp
right?
doesn't really go
But what does that have to do with stratospheric aerosol
Haarp
injections?
doesn't really go into the atmosphere.
Well, the speculation,
I know all the Haarp
Eddie.
secrets. I've interviewed the private head of it.
Okay,
I actually know the Haarp secrets.
Okay.
I don't know why the
Haarp
Pentagon
secrets?
decided to let him on my show.
How does Haarp work
He
with
came on.
How does Haarp work with the chemtrails? What do they?
Let me tell you.
What goes on?
Okay. Only a micronic amount, a small amount of what Haarp does is in the atmosphere. It's bouncing off the aurora borealis and then resonating back through in a deep Earth communication program to satellites and other things through the planet. So it's something so you can communicate to satellites, through the satellites down to the submarines.
So here it goes. This is an actual definition, how Haarp works. The facility's transmitters send radio waves upward. But hold on, let's just read it first. Waves upwards into the ionosphere between 100 and 350 kilometers of altitude. The resulting heating effect creates irregularities in the electron density there, which in turn allows communication signals as from satellites to be relayed off the ionosphere.
And that's not what it really does. Then they can shoot the satellite frequency coded through the Earth to submarines.
Now, what is this website from that
then the
explains
submarine
this, Jamie?
puts up a buoy. You want the real stuff, I'll tell you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Nature magazine.
Tell you?
Let me explain something.
Okay, nature.com.
I had the head of the Haarp program on.
I'm just fucking with
I got
you.
contacted about 10 years ago, and they said the head of the Haarp project really likes your work. He'd like to come on. The interview's online. And he'd like to come on and tell everybody. And about 30 minutes in, a colonel came on the line and said sorry during a break and cut the guy off.
Wow. Dum, dum, dum.
I mean, this really happens.
Cue spooky music.
Cue spooky music. But let me get back.
I believe you.
No, it's a true story.
I want to know.
I want to know that. I want to know the relationship between. Like, what do the chemtrails have to do? Do you think Trump is going to look into the SIA project that the CIA has greenlit?
He is starting out with vaccines, as I told people he would do, investigating all the damage they've caused.
Ultimately, that's good too. Start the vaccines, get that shit together too, for sure. But what about the SAI programs that the CIA has greenlit? You think he's going to get into that?
Eddie, I think it's next level. Soon we won't even communicate with these microphones. The internet's just going to be like. I won't have to explain it all.
Eddie, you're so locked onto this.
I'm just like,
here's the problem with all this SIA shit. Most of what you see when you see those jets flying around, those clouds behind them, most of that is just a jet engine. Exactly. The jet
and everybody
engine
confuses that with the real program.
What's the real program?
Well, here's the thing. You're right, and so is Joe, because the world's complex. There are secret and quasi-secret and public programs to test manipulation of the weather and weather systems. The Arabs are doing it. The Chinese are doing it. The Russians are doing it.
Well, people have been cloud seeding for 100 years
He's not talking
now.
about cloud
the
seeding.
Chinese were doing it
too.
500
That
years
is
ago.
weather manipulation.
But they're doing it for different purposes,
Let
not
me tell
to, not to
Okay,
produce
do you
crops.
Want, okay, I had Ben Livingston,
Keep going.
the head of the U.S. weather weapon program for 27 years, on my show first, because I saw it was declassified. I saw that he was in the Panhandle of Texas. I called him running a major cloud seeding company with his son and got the 90-year-old to Austin. And then after that, he totally freaked out because the CIA came to his house. Do you want the interview's on YouTube? Do you want to know what he said?
Yes.
No, he was a World War II fighter pilot. And at the end of World War II, he flew the first planes into hurricanes, which are in the Atlantic.
That's pretty gangster.
And into typhoons that are even faster in the Pacific. And then he also led squadrons in Vietnam, flooding everything up to 10 feet of water out of clear blue skies within hours.
What a badass!
With their chemicals.
What kind of a badass you have to be to do that?
A super badass.
Fly into a hurricane or a typhoon? Jesus
Christ.
Christ.
The first guy to do it.
Holy shit!
Anyways, He's super badass. I don't even know he's alive. He's been living since at 90. He was still all there, and I thought at 90 he could kick my ass.
What a
He was
fucking
big Texan. I felt like the guy was tougher than me. Anyways, so we're sitting there, and he gives me all this data, and I can't believe it. He's giving me all these classified photos and stuff because they just declassified the file. And no one thought to call the old man from Lubbock or whatever it was.
Right.
So I call him. I get him on. They sent a bunch of people to their company and threatened them the next week after I aired it. And he laid it out. He said, in 1967, we certified at the Stanford Research Institute that he was able to control hurricanes, create hurricanes, and steer hurricanes. All that got black budgeted, shut down, and then they got into these arrays where they could use antennas. And out of that, in Westinghouse, came the whole Haarp program. So in the 60s, they could create, control, and steer or kill hurricanes. That's why you Google now, Bill and Melinda Gates bought all those patents, and quote, Bill Gates is going to save the world from bad weather. Bill Gates wants to stop hurricanes. Google it.
So let me
Bill Gates
ask you
owns
this.
the weather machines.
Let me pause for a second.
Yeah.
How do they manipulate a hurricane? So the hurricane's going to happen. How do they break it up?
Okay. If it's coming into land's their problem with aerial arrays projecting into the sky, they can break it up or strengthen it or kill it or steer it because it's all computerized.
And they're doing that with Haarp?
Well, they've got Haarp bases all over the place. They call them Doppler radar facilities. Oh, the government wants your local city to have Doppler radar.
I thought that was like so you could have the guy in front of the screen.
But that's at like 1/10 of 1%. They can crank those arrays up that have massive. Your lights might go out when they do it a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, because they'll use the whole power of your town through the Doppler radars, and then they control it. The U.S. has a giant weather weapon hidden in front of everybody in every town and city, and poor Russians and Chinese are just discovering it all. The U.S. has weather weapons that can knock them all out right now.
Can Bill Gates control the weather?